Welcome back to another Level video. In today's video, I will be tier list ranking the weapons from popular new video game Atomic Heart. I played all the way through this game and then started forcing my loved ones and friends to do the same because I had such a great time. I wanted everyone else to experience the joy that is Atomic Heart. We are back on tiermaker.com as you would expect, and I have the weapons laid out before me. I will select a weapon, talk about it a little bit, show some gameplay of it, and then we'll put it where it belongs. Up first, I'm going to grab the Electro. Now, the Electro is one of the first guns that you get in this game, and it's interesting because it does not take ammunition. It's a decent gun. It does an okay amount of damage, especially if you go for headshots and early game. But what you're really going to want to use it for is for its suction ability. It has like a disintegration ability that you can use to refill your energy level. That's really important because a lot of the more powerful guns in the game take that energy type of ammunition, and waiting for it to recharge by itself is a pain. So recharging it with your Electro is great. I'm gonna put it as solid weapon. It doesn't have a high damage, but it is very reliable, and it has a pretty high skill gap when it comes to the different ways you can use it and its high headshot potential. So we're gonna put him in the solid weapon tier. Up next, I'm going to grab the Fox. The Fox is basically a hatchet. It's like an axe. Its secondary ability is very underwhelming. You just kind of charge it up for a few seconds and then you just do a normal amount of damage. Well, I'm sure it's more, but it doesn't feel like it. I hate using this weapon. I don't like melee builds in games, and I don't think this one is interesting. And it's aesthetically pleasing, but functionally, it doesn't bring a lot to the table that the other melee weapons don't do. It's a little lighter weight than some of the heavier melee weapons we'll talk about, but there's already lightweight ones as well. I think this weapon is hot garbage. I think it's trash. We're gonna put it in the trash tier. Up next, I'm going to grab the Pashtet. I believe that's how you say that, Pashtet. The Pashtet is a melee weapon that has a secondary ability where you throw it and the blade comes out and kind of spins for like a few seconds before returning to you. So it's like a sword with like a boomerang ability, kind of. The boomerang ability doesn't take that much of your special ammo, your like energy, but it also doesn't do that much damage. And you can't hold it to continue the chopping action. It's just a one-time use. You have to keep doing that. It's okay. It's fun to use. You slash much faster with it than some of the other melee weapons. I'm gonna put it in bad though because its secondary ability is not unique. We'll touch on that in a little bit, but there's a different melee weapon that does everything this one does better. So we're gonna put him in the bad section. Next up, I'm going to grab the KS-23. This is the shotgun that you get, again, relatively early into the game, and you're gonna keep this thing on you the entire game. Its damage output is impressive, especially if you get headshots. My favorite thing to do with this gun is to just shoot the robotic humanoids in the chest or the abdomen because it will cut them in half sometimes. It is immensely satisfying to use, and it does a lot of damage. My biggest problem with the shotgun though is that it's a shotgun, so it doesn't have a lot of range. So when you start fighting higher bosses that spin around and do a lot of like area of effect damage, it becomes almost useless. But against regular robots and zombie creatures that you're going to run into, it's really good. For that reason, I'm gonna have to put it in top tier because not only does it do a lot of damage, but it's fun to use and the ammo is not expensive to craft. So that is our first top tier weapon, is the KS-23. The next weapon I'm going to grab is the Zvezdochka. This is a melee weapon that is a little slower, a little heavier, but it does what the Pashtet does much better. This melee weapon is incredible. If you have a full energy bar, it's almost like a magic wand that you just point in the direction of bad guys and they just get cut into pieces. And don't even get me started on how powerful it is if you throw on an elemental charge on this thing. It is immensely powerful and very fun to use. Now, its regular attack is slow and heavy. Its laborious to use this weapon like you're supposed to and not just use its alternate distance ability. But that distance ability it does incredible amounts of damage. It's incredibly fun to use, and you get a decent amount of time with it. It doesn't drain the energy meter as quick as you would think. So we're gonna put him in solid weapon. The only way that would make this weapon better is if there was a way you could gain energy from using it, or if it was a little quicker on the regular swings, but its alternate ability is incredibly powerful, and I wish I discovered this earlier into the game. Next up, we're going to grab the Railgun. Now, the Railgun is interesting because you can't craft any upgrades for it at all. I don't know if it was a last-minute addition to the game, or if they thought it would be too powerful with any improvements whatsoever. As far as I know, it is the only weapon on this list that does not have any attachment or alternate fire upgrades whatsoever. It's strange. Now, it does massive amounts of damage, and if you're in a boss fight with a large enemy who's not moving very quickly, you should definitely take this with you, because its decently high rate of fire and its massive damage output make up for the fact that it drains your energy very quickly. You will only get like 5 shots off with this thing before your energy meter is completely drained. So if you are going to run around with this, you need to also have the Electro, and you need to be ready to do a lot of the sucking disintegration ability, and it gets very, very tedious. This one I'm going to put in usable, but it is annoying to use. It has massive damage output, and that's what saves it from being straight up bad, but it plows through its energy so quickly. And I do feel like it was kind of strange for it not to have some upgrades at all. Like, I can't even put a different sight or scope on it. Weird. The next weapon I'm going to grab is the Kalash, which is basically like an AK-47, and when you add more attachments to it, it starts looking more and more like a weaponized space AK-47 or like some alien blaster. But this gun is very solid. The key with this gun is to get the enemies all lined up in front of you so you don't have to stop shooting, and you can just treat it like it's an LMG, especially when you get the extended magazines. This gun is powerful, it's fun to use, it's iconic. This is a Russian game. You need an AK-47. I think it's a great solid weapon. The only thing that stops it from being S tier, I want to feel like I'm shooting an AK-47, and I don't necessarily believe I'm shooting an AK-47 when I'm shooting this firearm. I don't know, it just doesn't feel, it feels too weightless. It feels too flowy. I wish it felt a little heavier and a little grittier, but it still does massive amounts of damage. It's a great LMG type gun to have in the open world, and it's a solid weapon. Next up, we're going to grab the Swede, Swede. I don't know how I'm supposed to say this, but it's spelled just Swede, so I'm going to guess it's just a Swedish looking axe. But this axe is very, very annoying. It's okay. It does a lot of damage, honestly, and that's why it's so annoying, because it's not unique. It's not fun to use. It may as well be a giant lead pipe, because you just kind of bop people with it and swing this heavy thing around. I get it. I get it as a heavy melee weapon. This is the best in its class. It's not fun to use, but if you want to do massive amounts of damage with a melee build, especially if you're going to run like the polymetric bubble ability so you can block damage, this is a good weapon. I'm going to put it in usable. I don't think it's very fun to use, but it does decent damage. Next up, I'm going to grab the Fat Boy. This is like a Fallout reference name, so that's fun that they did that. This rocket launcher starts out being underwhelming, and then you can unlock a barrel for it that holds 3 rockets instead of 1, and then you can unlock some tech for it where the missiles follow the enemies. Now, it's a little strange. The missiles travel very, very slow, so you shoot and then it's almost like they spawn a few seconds after you fire, and then they kind of make their way very slowly towards the enemy. But the lock-on ability is very nice if you just want to turn around, aim down your sight, and just blast in the general direction of the baddies and know that you're going to hit them. It's very fun to use. I don't think it does enough damage for what it is, though, especially because the rocket ammunition takes up a lot of storage space in your inventory. You can't group them very much. I'm going to put it at usable. It's not quite a solid weapon. It just needs to do a little more damage, and it needs to have a slightly larger area of effect. Next, I'm going to grab the Dominator. Now, the Dominator, like the Railgun and the Electro, doesn't take normal ammo. It takes your energy ammunition stockpile, and this gun is confusing. I think its purpose is to launch giant electric balls at enemies who are either stunned or being telekinized into the air or something. But it drains your ammo even faster than the railgun somehow, and it's just not fun to use. You can't aim down sights with it. The orientation of the gun doesn't quite match where the rounds fire. I guess you could call them rounds. I don't really know what they are. But this gun is not fun to use. You're always running out of ammo with it. It's heavy, it's clunky. I actually strongly dislike it. I think I used it like once or twice during my normal playthrough, and while capturing this footage, I tried to use it again, but I'm gonna put this one in the trash tier. I don't know. This gun is not fun to use, and I think it's hot garbage. Next up, I'm gonna grab the Snowball. Now, I saw all the Reddit clips online of people using the Snowball and doing massive amounts of damage with it. I cannot for the life of me figure out how to utilize this weapon effectively. As a normal melee weapon, it's fine. It's basically a multi-headed axe, but what makes it special is its secondary alternate ability, where you spin and charge like a lance chainsaw hybrid, and you plow through the enemies and do massive amounts of damage. In theory, I can't get it to work. Maybe I'm just not smart enough for this weapon, but I'm gonna put it in the straight up bad section, because like the Pashtet, it has some interesting ideas, but I don't know. I can't put it in trash because I think that I'm the problem. I don't think the weapon is the problem. I think that I'm the problem. So I'll learn in the future, and maybe someday I'll like it more, but for now, it's in the bad tier. Last on this list is the MP, or Makarov pistol. This gun is interesting because it starts as like a normal pistol, but you can add a lot of fun kit to it. The one I ran lets you fire quickly when hip firing, but then when you aim down sights, it turns into sort of like a sniper rifle. It shoots one singular round that does massive damage. There's a bit of a cooldown between shots, but it does a lot of damage. And having that spammy ability while you're not aiming down sights is super great if you get overwhelmed. It doesn't quite have the accuracy that I'd want it to while not aiming down sights. It kind of sprays wildly, but again, it does a decent amount of damage, and the ammo is very abundant. A lot of the robots you kill will have this ammo on them, but I'm gonna put it in a solid weapon tier for now. There you go. That is the definitive Atomic Heart weapons tier list. Hopefully you agree. If you do not, let me know why, because I've played this game all the way through and I think my opinions are pretty valid. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next Leverloo video.